And now for something completely different.
Because we're trying to defend ourselves. We didn't do anything. It's not my mate. You heard it all.
Abroad and at home, alcohol is Britain's favourite drug. It's the biggest killer, the biggest cause of crime and biggest cause of violence. More than 2 million of us are now drinking at very dangerous levels. These drinkers captured on camera, on holiday, creating havoc on planes and in hospital, have all featured in recent World in Actions. As most of us prepare for the Christmas party season, tonight we look at the harsh realities of Britain on the booze.
Looking at CCTV tonight, don't look too busy on town, but you never know. We don't know what we're going to
Saturday night in Wakefield. Tonight, the 10 o'clock shift will have to police around 6,000 drinkers spilling out of the city's pubs and clubs.
He drinks a whiskey drink, he drinks a vodka drink, he drinks a lager drink, he drinks a cider drink. He sings the songs that remind him of the good times, he sings the songs that remind him of the best times.
How much are you going to be drinking tonight? Oh, no!
16, 15 pints. About 15.
Edwards, Merlins, Macmillan.
8.
Yeah.
8.
About 13, 14 bottles maybe.
And did you have a drink in each one?
Yes. We had more than one.
Back off! Go away! Go away! Go away!
Within minutes of starting their shift, officers are called to help break up a fight outside a pub.
A man and a woman were arrested. The woman was arrested because she couldn't be convinced that the fact that the man had been arrested, she could do nothing about that. And despite being told, she still protested and wanted to interfere in the arrest and ended up being arrested herself. That's the sort of problem that you get when you're dealing with people who are partly or very intoxicated.
Since World in Action came on air, 60,000 pints of beer have been downed. By the end of the programme, the figure will be more than 500,000. Dawn in Hertfordshire. Time for the first drink of the day for 25-year-old Julie Pope.
I drink enough to get me through the day, which is, on average, more than most men would drink in a week. Since having my first one, I need another drink, and my day goes on from there onwards. Then when I've had another one, I need another one, and it'll just carry on from there.
Julie's been a heavy drinker since she was 17. She used to work in an engineering factory, but had to give up because it was too dangerous to have her drunk around heavy machinery.
If you sit on a park bench and you're drinking out of a bowl, you're an alcoholic. But if you sit in a pub and you drink out of a pint glass, whether you're a woman or a man, it's acceptable. You can do it. And you can be rat, whatever. And everyone thinks it's fun. But believe me, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. It frightens me because I know if this is going to come to a brief end, it's going to come quickly and shortly, and that will be it. My life will be over. Because I've been hospitalised already for it. And I know that there's no turning back.
According to official estimates, there are 40,000 drink-related deaths a year. Many victims pass through Britain's mortuaries.
I mean, this is a mortuary where there are places for up to 60 individuals at any one time. And I would guess at any one particular time you might have 5 or 10 people whose deaths are either directly related to alcohol or at least where alcohol has made some contribution.
But official figures underestimate the problem. Many deaths where alcohol is a factor are not recorded.
We do post-mortems on people who've died of alcohol-related diseases of all sorts of ages, from teenagers to the middle-aged to the elderly, and of all social classes. They can die of alcoholic poisoning from taking a huge amount just at once, through to things like cirrhosis of the liver. They might die of things like road traffic accidents or other kinds of trauma, such as getting into fights. They may die of things like cardiac failure related to alcoholic damage to the heart.
To save bereaved families embarrassment, GPs are often reluctant to list alcohol as one of the causes of death.
I think it's very difficult for a general practitioner if he's, say, had to go around to someone's house to write a death certificate. I know of an example recently where in a district very close to here, where a pathologist was asked by a coroner's officer to remove alcohol from a death certificate simply because the family saw this word alcohol and were very upset by it.
And what do you think of that?
I think that's entirely inappropriate, because if we carry on doing things like that, we'll never have a proper idea of just how much alcohol-related disease and death there is in the community.
By the end of this programme, 2 people will suffer an alcohol-related death. Alcohol is involved in 26% of drownings, 39% of deaths in fires, and 65% of suicide attempts. Under the Conservatives, alcohol was at least recognised as a growing problem. A coordinating committee of ministers tried to develop policies. During the election, Labour promised it would be even tougher on drink, drugs and related violence. But while they chose to be tough on drugs, appointing a special drug czar, there's been no similar initiative on drink. Even the Ministerial Coordinating Committee has been disbanded.
Well, the government at present is merely tinkering. It's got no national strategy. I think the problem for the government is that it's so concentrated on tobacco or on drugs that it's neglecting the one problem that really affects us all, which happens to be the problems related to alcohol consumption.
Back in Wakefield, it's pub closing time.
It's now 25 to 12. All the pubs have emptied and the people are now migrating into the local nightclubs. As you can see, people are now getting a bit loud. They've had a bit to drink before going into nightclubs where the alcohol's a bit more expensive. And if we were expecting trouble, this is where we'd expect the trouble to be.
Excuse me, officer, I am aware that I'm making my way to the taxi rank without no swearing.
Just move on. Go on. Go on your way. Somewhat worse to let to drink, aren't you?
Me? No.
Right.
I'm drunk all night.
Right. It's his birthday, so we're going to cut him a little bit of slack. He's found his friends and they've promised me they're going to look after him. So we'll keep our eyes on him, make sure that they do, and leave it as that for the time being. All right?
Get off! Get off! Why? Why? Why me? Why me?
Despite repeated requests, the birthday boy refused to go home quietly. The result, a night in the cells.
The drink just exaggerates all of the problems that we get, because you try to reason with people about their demeanour, the way they're speaking to people, the way they're acting, and they've got incredibly short memories and they won't listen to anything you say.
It's now 9 minutes since this programme started and £177,000 has been collected from alcohol excise, while only £68.40 has been spent on alcohol education. In England, the Health Education Authority spend 5 times more on drug than alcohol education.
You're going to go down Tina's?
It's 3:30, and Julie has just been to collect her 6-year-old daughter Lauren from school. Since 6:45 this morning, Julie has drunk nearly 2 bottles of wine and 2 pints of lager. It's been a typical day, with more drinking to come in the evening.
I hide it. If I drink in the daytime, I can get into the cab. I can pick my daughter up. But yet, it's the smell that gives it away. She sees me drink, and I hate every moment of it. I hate every moment of it. She looks at Mummy and she says, "Mummy, don't do that." And I know why she's so scared. But yet when you're pissed, you're not that scared. I feel bitter and twisted. I feel guilt every time I drink. And it feels like it's eating me away. It feels like it's robbing my heart away. Because every time I take a glass of drink, I think, God, what is she thinking? And she sees me do it, but yet I still do it. And I don't see any answers.
If someone came along and said, either you give up drinking or you have to give up your daughter, what would you do? What would your choice be?
I'd give up drink. If I could.
Do you think you'd be able to?
It's just not enough help.
Every year in Britain, there are almost 1.5 million victims of violent attacks by drunken louts. Britain's drink problem is not a private matter. It's one of our most shameful exports. In the summer, World in Action cameras were in San Antonio, Ibiza. Here too, much of the violence was fueled by alcohol.
If a holiday is just basically based on sex, sun, booze, rave-ups, you're bound to get some kids that are not going to be able to handle that sort of thing. If everybody who got into a fight in San Antonio was arrested, or caused damages, or smashed windows, or smashed up cars, or whatever, if they were all arrested, the island wouldn't be big enough to put them inside.
There is growing concern about the levels of alcohol consumption among young people. The government say they want to reduce dangerous levels of drinking. But in the 18 to 24 age range, the figures are rising.
He's not well, no?
No, he's fine. He's fine.
Yes, you think he's fine?
Yeah, very fine.
Do you need assistance?
Health campaigners are particularly concerned about problem drinking among women. Here too, the trend is for more women to compete with men and drink at dangerous levels. Fed up with dealing with the daily consequences of binge drinking, the British Vice Consul in Ibiza resigned, claiming that young drinkers were a national embarrassment.
But the youngsters, because it's so cheap, because bars are open practically all night, they don't seem to have any sense of when, you know, you've had one for the road or when you've had too much. And you'll find bodies lying around at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning in San Antonio when they're completely out of it. You know, it can be dangerous. I mean, we have had people, kids who've died on their own vomit because they've had too much alcohol.
Even in the air, holidaymakers can't guarantee that they won't encounter the ugly effects of alcohol. In July, World in Action obtained footage of the first air rage incident caught on film. A drunken British businessman had to be restrained after complaints from a stewardess that he indecently assaulted her.
You can do that now.
Suddenly, a steward came running towards us and said, he's broken loose, he's violent, we need help, we need help.
You do it!
I've been advised that it was an alcohol-induced blackout or confusion that I suffered. But I've got no recollection of the incidents that have been reported at all.
Since World in Action first exposed the problem, the news has been dominated by dozens of further air rage incidents, many fueled by alcohol.
Once the cuff goes on, it's the weak hand.
Now the Department of Transport has taken action. Last month, they announced plans for new tough laws to fight air rage.
The government's got to stop tinkering. The government's got to recognise that alcohol, with regard to their departments, affects 12 government departments, and not just simply one government department acting in isolation from another.
Many doctors want a government strategy to reduce the total amount of alcohol we all consume. But the Portman Group, funded by the drinks industry, only want to target problem drinkers.
People don't want to be preached at or subject to finger-wagging nanny statism. People need to be able to be trusted to make responsible decisions for themselves. And the proof that this strategy works is that in this country most people already do drink responsibly.
Back in Wakefield, the clubs are kicking out, and that means more work for the police. In the last 4 hours, 17 people have been arrested. The offences range from drunken disorderly to assault. A quiet Saturday night, according to Wakefield Police.
It's been a fairly average night, rather quieter than normal in the city centre, as you've seen for yourselves. Much as I would have expected for tonight, leading up to Christmas, fairly quiet. Within the next fortnight we'll see a build-up. It means that people will be going out drinking who are not used to drinking. They'll consume drink. It will affect them worse than it would affect the regular drinkers, and I would expect to see an increase in drink-related offences within Wakefield City, although hopefully we'll be able to contain that.
Across the country, alcohol fuels violence. In almost 9 out of 10 assaults outside clubs and pubs, the assailant has been drinking. Health campaigners argue that price controls are the best way of reducing the amount people drink.
The government should say that it will keep the price of alcohol at the level that it is today and not allow it to become a cheap item in the shopping basket.
But in real terms, the cost of alcohol is falling. And in any case, people have already figured a way to get cheaper drink every time the British government raises the price by increasing duty.
You drink more of it because it's so cheap?
Yeah. I think really that is the case, but we like to think not. Have so much, I don't overdo it.
We're just sort of filling it up till it's full and that's it.
EastEnders is set up in a way to sell beer and wine to British people, primarily if they're in a hurry. We use big trolleys, we fault truck the stuff out, so it's very quick and convenient. Everything is geared up to make people feel like they haven't come abroad.
Hypermarkets in Calais are booming. Up to 80,000 of us cross the channel by ferry every day, many to cash in on cheap booze.
We have wine from 83 pence a bottle upwards. Many of our wines are around about £1 a bottle. They're very often wines that you go and pay £2.95 in the supermarkets back home. Oh, I took £6,500 off of somebody in the week. I took £2,000 yesterday off of somebody. When you combine the spirits and a few of the upmarket wines and that, it's not hard for someone to spend a couple of £1,000.
In the past, Julie has turned to crime to fund her addiction to alcohol.
I've got up until 9:30 to do an injustice to somebody and then buy my alcohol. Still, I've defrauded benefit books. I've sold things from my home. I've even contemplated on taking things from my mum's home.
Julie has been through detox twice, and her doctor has warned her that she only has a couple of years to live if she doesn't give up alcohol.
Are you looking forward to Christmas?
No. Why would I want to look forward to it? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to do my liver any good. By January or February, I could be hospitalised. So Christmas to me is just trauma. My life expectancy, not very long, if I don't quit. But I just hope my future will be, if I was to make a wish, would be with my daughter and just to take care of her and just booze right out of the window.
But in reality, Julie believes there's little hope that she will be able to stop drinking.
My pancreas is on the verge of collapse. I've had a peptic ulcer which I was hospitalised for because I was coughing up blood and everything else. They've said to me that if you carry on what you're doing, you're not going to live very long.
It's now 20 minutes since the start of this programme and 30 drivers have taken the breath test. 5 have failed. By the end of the programme, at least one road user will be killed or injured by a drunk driver. Across the country, the pre-Christmas anti-drink driving campaign is in full swing. Alcohol from the night before can still be in the body the morning after, pushing unsuspecting drivers over the limit. In Lancashire, the police are trying to make drivers more aware of the dangers.
On a first conviction, normally it's a year.
For Joan Wheatley and her son David, the campaign comes too late. Most people do keep within the recommended sensible drinking limits. However, alcohol abuse can affect us all, even in the middle of the morning. The Wheatley family were on their way to visit relatives in Whitby.
We're just driving along and it was about 11:15 on that morning, and the traffic, it was quite chaotic, and all of a sudden we both must have noticed at the same time that this minibus was coming from us from the other side of the road, and John glanced over and just suddenly started swerving the wheel round to get off the road. And then the next thing I knew was this great big almighty bang and this minibus hitting John on the head. I think I knew that his neck was broken, because I just couldn't, his head was lifeless. But he was making these terrible groaning noises, so I thought he was still alive, and I was pleading with him to wake up. I think I was just, part of the time actually, I think I was hysterical actually, but I was saying to him, I love you, wake up.
John Wheatley never regained consciousness. At 44, he became a victim of morning after drink driving.
I learned the next day in hospital by the policeman that the driver had been over the legal limit of alcohol, and I was absolutely shocked and horrified. I just couldn't believe it. I just thought it was bad enough it was an accident, but the fact that he was drunk absolutely mortified me. I just could not believe that on a morning. I just couldn't believe it.
The message ought to be from the government, less is better. But less is better means less profits for the Portman Group's masters.
It beats me when people say the industry is interested only in people drinking as much as possible. The industry is interested in seeing its products enjoyed responsibly. There would just be a backlash. There has been a backlash in the past when excessive drinking has brought the product as well as the people into disrepute.
While the government promotes a high-profile fight against drugs, their national alcohol strategy is still being developed. Efforts to tackle the one drug we practically all use are still patchy. It's left to the police and National Health Service to pick up the pieces. In the meantime, while the majority enjoy the festive season, for some, the consequences of alcohol abuse will mean a far from Merry Christmas.
I still miss my husband, and especially at this time of year, because it's Christmas, and John loved Christmas. He was like a daft kid for Christmas. I would have been married 25 years this year, and no, it's not the same, and people have got to realise they can absolutely ruin people's lives.
If I could give my daughter just one present, it would be a mum with a drink. That's what it would be. Not a Nintendo, not a £1,000, whatever PC, just her mum without a drink, and to be happy knowing she's not had a drink, and for my daughter just to be happy. That's what it would most certainly be.